Abby, you say hi? Hi. What's going on today, Preston Outdoors fans? We're back again here with a Vlog Monday. We're going to talk about some more tackle. I'm excited to talk about this. We're kind of going to I'm going to go back to a seasonal thing here. I had put in, last week we talked about chatterbaits and spinnerbaits. And this week, go from this tackle over here, we are going to talk about one of the techniques that I was not real confident about. And this will need to talk about. Two of these boxes in one. Let's get to it. Alright, geese are everywhere. But, like I said, we're going to talk about technique early season that I'll be using for sure. And we're going to talk about the drop shot. Now, the drop shot for me has not been a very confident technique. It wasn't until last early summer and then especially last fall that it really took off for me. I was not confident in it. Like I've said to a lot of you guys in my previous videos, I wasn't a real good finesse fisherman until especially last year, where I really put some effort into it. So I'm going to go over kind of what I use for some baits. Now, there's all kinds of drop shot baits. Some guys stick to a single one, and I probably could stick to just one and you'd be good to go. But when it comes into it, the bait that I found has been the most success, and I've caught 4 to 6 pound largemouth on these. I've caught, you know, anywhere from as small as 1 pound to about 4 or 5 pound smallmouth on these. Now this is just a 4-inch Cinco. Now this is a Gander Mountain brand Cinco, just a 4-inch watermelon red flake. Now it's just a tiny little bait, but again, when you find the fish, and I don't really use a drop shot much as a search bait. I know people do search presentation, but for me it's more of a casting to cover or casting to a school or a piece of structure instead of a search bait. If I was going to use a search bait for, like, say, smallmouth or something, I'm going to use a spinner bait or a crankbait, or even a swim bait, something like that. So that's my go-to bait. This past year is just a little 4-inch Cinco, and I've drop shot those homemade craws I made too. I actually caught a muskie on that last summer, which is pretty cool. But another one that you can use, and that I have used, is a robo worm. Now this is kind of the purple color with the chartreuse tail. But this is a more softer bait, and it's a longer bait. Now, when I went down to Texas and got turned on to the drop shot bite down there, a guy at the store told me to get some of these. Now these are V&M Trickster worms. It's a 6.5-inch worm, so it's a 6.5-inch worm, which normally I wouldn't be thinking of throwing something that big. But here, just a green pumpkin with black flake worm, and it's got a big wider tail on there. And I caught anywhere from 12 inchers all the way up to my personal best 7-pound bass on this. And so this is a bait for me if I'm going to go for largemouth. I'm going to probably be instituting it more around weed edges and stuff like that later on in the summer. But again, I haven't played around with this much in the summer. It's been early spring and fall bite for me, but obviously a deeper bite, you know, late summer, stuff like that. So we're gonna talk about, obviously you're gonna have terminal tackle involved here. Come on, talk about this stuff. So here's my terminal tackle box. This is a Plano tackle box. It's the waterproof ones with the seal on there. Now when I'm talking about drop shots, I'm gonna go a big weight. Geese are everywhere. I'm going to go with big weight. I like anywhere from a half or above. I don't really like going underneath a half. So I got, this one is actually a 3/8 ounce. And I got ½ ounce here. I sometimes even go up to a 5/8. I mean, they're big weights. And this is just your cylinder weight, basically, is all it amounts to. There, and then here's the bigger one. Canadians are everywhere. Bigger weights. Now, and then another thing I want to talk to you about is a hook. Well, we'll start with the weights here. Again, a lot of people go with the 1/8 ounce weights, and for me personally, it doesn't work because, again, I'm not a big time finesse fisherman. It's kind of not part of my game. when it comes to fishing, but I'm slowly making a transition to becoming more confident in it. If I'm not getting those bites, I'm gonna go to this stuff. And so those weights, it's just me not letting go of my power fishing, as they call it, you know, more aggressive baits. Me not letting go of my power fishing past and totally giving into the finesse fishing. And so that's when I'm going to go with a little bit heavier weight. And again, if I'm drop shotting in 20 some feet of water, I want that bait down there right now. And I've also found that if the fish aren't as aggressive, obviously fall rate, and I upgrade to, you know, these bigger half-ounce weights or even the 5/8 ounce weights, and the faster that bait gets down there and the louder this thing makes a noise and hits the ground, that's when you're going to have sometimes reaction bites, stuff like that. Now these ones, you can get them, and those ones are a couple lead ones, but I also have some tungsten ones, again made by Swagger Tackle Company. If you guys hadn't seen my other video, this isn't a plug for them, but I got opportunity to partner with them this year. I'm really excited. And when I'm fishing rock, I want tungsten when I'm fishing the bottom, because the reason is when I'm dragging it, I want to feel how big those rocks are. If I'm fishing in 25 feet of water and I'm on pea gravel or sand or boulders, I want to be able to feel what kind of rock I'm fishing. And with that tungsten that Swagger Tackle Company sells, it allows me to drag and say, okay, that's pea gravel. Okay, I can feel, without even scanning down there with my depth finder, I can feel a pea gravel transition to sand or mud. I can feel that transition, and sometimes the transition line is what you want to be following. So a tungsten weight for me is optimal for using a drop shot. I want to talk to you about hooks. See if I can find them here. These are 1/0 standout hooks. Now these things are funky looking if you haven't seen them before. But there's your hook. Now where you actually tie the Palomar knot that I use Palomar knot. You tie it on here, and then the excess of your tag line runs down through this loop, so that when, however long you have your tag line, it sits like this. And this weight holds the hook straight out. That's why they call it a standout hook. Depending on if I'm chasing smallmouth, largemouth, vegetation I'm around, water clarity, water depth, all depends on how far I'm going to have this weight below, you know, with your tag line. My tag line here depends on how far below I'm going to have this. Sometimes I'll have it, you know, a foot, sometimes 3 inches. If I'm dragging a craw especially, I'm going to have this, you know, really, really close to where I'll just kind of bump that drop shot or kind of swim it to where this weight will drag in the sand and stuff and kick up dirt, while the craw is attached to here and it's kicking like this. Looks like a crawfish fleeing away. But if I'm fishing in deeper, clearer water, you know, I might have an 18-inch drop line, or, you know, like a foot, something like that. It all depends, and you got to play with it what works for you. Also, I'm throwing, if you guys haven't seen it before, you can check out my rod arsenal video. I'm throwing it on a 7, I think it's a 7.1 or 7.2, maybe a 7-foot Gander Mountain Tournament Series rod. It's a walleye rod, so it has a fast action tip on it. And I wanted a long rod. You know, you can make long casts with your drop shot. And then, you know, that soft action tip, so where you barely wiggle your hand, that tip is fluttering, which on the back end, when you're barely fluttering that tip, that bait is down there just dancing away right in front of the fish's face. And I'm using a bigger ratio reel. I think it's or not a ratio, but it's a bigger size reel. It's a 3,000 size Pflueger President reel. Again, when you set that hook, you want to keep that soft action tip, will keep that hook wedged in that fish. But they're going to swim around, especially smallmouth. They're going to take off, and you need a big action reel to keep up with those fish, especially when they run at the boat. That's the biggest problem, that you're using that smaller size hook, it'll pop right out. And then I use the yellow line. It's a yellow Power Pro. I think it's 10 pound. Yeah, it's 10-pound line. And most of the time, I'm going to tie a huge leader on there. I think right now I have a 4 or 5 foot 10-pound fluorocarbon leader on there, just because, you know, if you get snagged off and you lose a weight, okay, you got to cut and then you got to retie. Okay, I want to move my different situation. I want to move that hook higher. That way I don't have to continuously be putting leaders on. And if I'm making long casts, the reason I have the yellow line is when a fish picks it up, you don't actually feel the bite. On the way down, your line will take off, or you're barely wiggling and a fish will pick up and come at you, and the weight of the line on the water. So you can still act like you're jigging there, but the fish is coming at you. So I can see that line take off, and that's why I got the yellow line on there. Now the reason why I got the really long, 4 to 5 to 6 foot leader is most people will do that because they're fishing deep water, deep clear water, and that works too. And even if I'm fishing shallower water, I'm going to use that big of leader, because when I use the FG knot, it slides through my loops good, it casts just fine, and that way if you're switching stuff like that, I don't have to sit down and tie an FG knot, which takes a little bit longer time away from fishing. I don't have to tie a bunch of different leaders in a week. I can just use the same leader. If everything looks good with no nicks and stuff like that, I'll just use the same leader for a week, retie it for the next week of fishing. So that's why I usually run a longer lead. I hope you guys found this interesting. Like, again, it's another tackle tip here. In a month or so, the waters are gonna be open up. I'm gonna start throwing some drop shots and stuff like that for smallmouth and largemouth. And it's slowly getting more and more confident. I find that spinning rod with my drop shot setup show up more and more on the front of my deck as the more and more fish I get on it. Obviously, you're going to get more confident with it. And so I hope you found this enjoyable. I do throw, there's some snow geese. I do throw bigger weights on there than most people do, and that's just a personal preference. Some guys, I know I fished with a couple guys, they use the 3/16 ounce or the 1/8 ounce weights, and that's their go-to, for water splashing and stuff like that if you're fishing shallow. But for me, I'm going to stick, the lightest I'm going to be going here is these, the 3/8 ounce. That just seemed to be a good fit for me. And like I said, if I'm fishing 30-40 feet, I'm going to be using the 5/8. I want that thing down there. Or if I'm using a paddle tail, I'm going to up the, if I'm fishing deep and with a paddle tail, I'm going to up the weight. That way that paddle really gets a good swing on the way down. So I hope you guys found this enjoyable. Hit that like button if you did. I'll keep coming out with these. Leave a comment below if you have any other questions. Again, next Monday, I'll be taking out another box here, and we're going to be going over it. And after I'm all done with these, I'm going to do the terminal tackle box, and I'll go over especially how I have them put off and stuff like that. So I hope you stay tuned. Friday morning, the next video will be out. And thanks for watching Preston Outdoors.